They say the mountains keep their own secrets. But some secrets don't stay buried. They wait, rotting in silence, for someone stupid enough to listen. There's a ridge in southeastern Kentucky where even the birds don't sing. Locals call it Carter's Hollow. For decades, the name alone was enough to make kids cross themselves, and old men lowered their voices. Because the Carter family wasn't just feared, they were hunted once and never found. Back in the early 1900s, a small mining town called Lanton Ridge thrived near that hollow. Dozens of families worked the coal veins, and miners often camped overnight deep in the woods. One by one, they started disappearing. At first, people blamed it on Caven's wild animals or mountain madness, until they found what was left of Eli Turner. He was discovered 3 miles from his worksite, sprawled face down beside the creek, except his body wasn't torn up like by a bear. It was stripped clean, like a butcher's carcass, skin peeled away with precision. And near his body, a crude wooden figure was staked into the dirt, a man's shape, with a human jawbone hanging around its neck. The sheriff at the time, Thomas Gray, followed the trail into the hollow with 2 deputies. They never reported what they found, because only one deputy came back. His name was Rufus Bell, and what he told the townsfolk sent half of Lanton Ridge packing by sundown. He said the Carters had been living in those woods long before the town even existed, an old bloodline that never left the mountain, never mixed with outsiders, except, maybe, when outsiders wandered too close. They were pale, deformed, eyes clouded like smoke. The deputy said they didn't walk right. They crawled, crouched, and whispered to each other in a language he didn't know. And their home wasn't a cabin anymore. It was a network of tunnels carved into the rock, with bones lining the walls like some kind of shrine. Within a week, Sheriff Gray and his family vanished too. No investigation followed. The state declared the area uninhabitable after a mine collapse, but locals knew better. For generations, no one stepped foot near Carter's Hollow. The town faded, swallowed by vines and silence. It stayed that way until 2021, when a group of urban explorers from a YouTube channel called Ghostlink TV decided to go viral by filming the Forbidden Hollow. They'd heard the old stories, but didn't believe them. 2 of them, Nick and Harper, were the loud ones, joking about hillbilly horror and fake legends. The third, Eli Wade, was quieter. He'd grown up in Appalachia and didn't laugh so easily. Their GoPros recorded the whole thing, or at least, what made it out. The footage starts ordinary, fog creeping over the valley, the faint hum of cicadas, and the group joking as they hike deeper into the woods. But by the 3rd hour, everything shifts. Harper's voice turns low. Did you hear that? In the background, something breathes. Not animal breathing. It's rhythmic, human, wet, like lungs dragging air through water. They find an old clearing filled with rusted metal cages, overgrown with moss. Inside one is a doll, hand-carved, with a real human tooth sewn into its grin. Eli turns pale. Let's go back, he says, but the others want one more shot near the tunnel they spotted on a thermal drone scan. That's when the ground beneath Nick gives way. The camera flips, showing a jagged drop, a pit lined with roots and old timber. Nick screams as his flashlight flickers, and then you see them shapes moving below, crawling on all 4s, white as snow. Hands reach up, thin and shaking, fingernails blackened. They pull him down. The footage cuts there. Authorities later claimed the group got lost in a cave system and died of exposure. But the bodies they recovered told another story. Nick's corpse was missing its lower jaw. Harper's skin had been carefully peeled and re-sewn backward, her face inside out like a mask. Eli Wade was never found, but 2 months later, a hiker discovered his phone lodged in a tree root near the hollow. The final clip lasts 3 seconds, a dim cave, the camera shaking violently, and in the faint glow, a figure steps forward, not one of the explorers. A woman, tall, with hair matted in dirt, holding a lantern made of bone. Her voice is hoarse, ancient, but she says something clear. "Welcome home, Eli." The phone drops, and you hear a wet laugh before it cuts out. Now, locals say when the fog gets thick enough, you can still hear her humming. The Carter matriarch, the one who raised generations underground, the one who taught them how to eat and how to survive. And every few years, another hiker goes missing. Always near the same ridge. Always in the same season. And when they're found, if they're found, there's always one thing missing: their jawbone. When news of the Ghost-Link disappearance spread, it barely made local papers. Just another urban explorer tragedy. But a man named Reverend Jonah Pike saw the report and knew exactly what it meant. He'd been trying to warn people for 40 years. Pike was a preacher in a coal camp near Lanton Ridge in the 1970s, a time when the Carter name was spoken only in whispers. Back then, he was young and foolish enough to think evil could be prayed away. He led a small group of locals up into Carter's Hollow one night, torches in hand, determined to burn out the sickness that dwells in the dark. Only 3 came back alive. He told no one what happened until 2021, when he reached out to a podcaster named Norah Quinn, who ran a show about Appalachian folklore. Norah met him in a nursing home. His hands shook as he handed her a faded photograph: 5 men standing outside a boarded mine entrance. Behind them, in the darkness, were faces, small, pale, watching. "They weren't human no more," Pike whispered. "And that night, we weren't hunters. We were food that got lucky." Norah uploaded the interview, part curiosity, part disbelief. Within days, the episode hit 1 million plays. Viewers sent her emails about strange encounters in those mountains, guttural laughter echoing in fog, mutilated deer with missing jaws, even voices calling names in the dark. She didn't believe half of it until she started receiving pictures. One in particular, a trail cam photo showing a long-limbed figure crouched near a carcass, its head tilted, eyes like fog lights. But what chilled her most wasn't the creature, it was the necklace it wore, a string of human jawbones. Determined to find the truth, Norah went to Lanton Ridge herself. The town was dead now, only 3 houses still standing, roofs caved, trees growing through porches. She rented a room in the last remaining motel, 10 miles out, where the clerk refused to take cash. "You're heading toward the hollow," he muttered, sliding back her money. "You can stay the night, but if you ain't out by sunrise, you're on your own." By morning, fog had rolled down from the hills like smoke from a fire. Her GPS stopped working halfway there. Every path looked identical: moss, rot, dead trees. Then she found the first signs. Strings of bones hanging from branches, twined with red thread. A rusted lantern swaying on an invisible breeze. And carved into a fallen tree was one word, scratched deep with a blade: return. She pressed on. Hours later, she stumbled upon what looked like the remains of a church. Roof gone, walls collapsed, but the pulpit still stood, carved from black oak, scorched as if by lightning. There were bones beneath it, not animal, human, arranged neatly in a circle. And at the center, something impossible: a leather-bound Bible, pages fused by blood and dirt. The cover read, "The Gospel of Carter." Inside were handwritten passages, generations of madness scrawled across fading paper, words that shouldn't exist. To eat the flesh is to know the spirit. To take the bone is to keep the voice. As she flipped a page, she froze. Taped to the back cover was a Polaroid. It showed a pale, rail-thin woman holding a newborn wrapped in cloth. In the corner, a name was written: Eli Carter-1922. Norah dropped the book. Something was breathing behind her, slow, wet. She turned. The forest was still, silent, and yet, she swore she saw movement between the trees, long white limbs, pulling something out of sight. Then came the whisper, A woman's voice, broken and close. "You shouldn't have come back, blood of the hollow." The camera she was carrying caught only flickers. The empty church, her flashlight shaking, her screams fading into static. She wasn't seen again. But a week later, a delivery truck hit something on a mountain road not far from Lantern Ridge. The driver claimed it was an animal, but when police checked the scene, they found a trail of blood leading into the woods and a necklace of jawbones lying beside it. On one of the bones, scratched in shaky handwriting, was a name, Norah. In February 2022, 6 months after Norah Quinn's disappearance, the Appalachian State Police quietly reopened the Carter case. They called it Operation Hollow. Unmarked trucks rolled into the ridge. Locals said it looked more like an exorcism than an investigation. Helicopters circled. Then, silence again. But 3 days later, a fire broke out on the mountain, one so bright it was seen from 10 towns away. By morning, everything inside the perimeter had burned to black ash. No official report was released. No one was charged. It was as if Carter's Hollow never existed, except someone leaked the files. A journalist named Daniel Rains, from a small Tennessee news outlet, claimed to have received an anonymous flash drive in the mail. It contained hours of helmet cam footage labeled Hollow Ops Recovered Segment. The government tried to suppress it, but Daniel released portions online before it was pulled down. What he showed looked like military footage, heavily degraded, with time-stamp overlays and low oxygen READOUTS. At first, it's just a group of men in tactical gear moving through a forest at night. They're calm, whispering code words, searching for something underground. Then one of them stops. You can hear him mutter. There's movement, 6 meters out. A faint click echoes not from a gun, from teeth. Dozens of them. Seconds later, the night vision lights up. You see faces emerging from the dark. Dozens, pale, stretched, smeared with mud and blood. They rush forward in a blur. Screams, gunfire, static. The feed returns for only a second. A single frame showing one of the soldiers, dragging himself backward through the dirt. Something is chewing on his leg. Behind him, carved into the rock, are words scorched into the wall. "We are the bone that remembers." After the leak, Daniel Rains vanished. His apartment was found empty, power cut, front door locked from the inside. Only one thing left on his desk, a manila envelope labeled, "Do not forget the mountain." Inside were photos. One showed the same pale woman from the Ghostlink footage, standing on the ridge, holding a lantern made of human ribs. Another photo was darker, grainier. It appeared to show a crowd of figures kneeling in front of her, and in the bottom corner, scrawled in pen, "They never died." By late spring, rumors spread that the Carter line had survived, or maybe had never died out to begin with. That what the fire destroyed was just the nest, not the source. A local historian named Mara Collins began studying the Gospel of Carter. She noticed the handwriting changed halfway through the text, from old Appalachian script to something modern. The last entries were written in pen, the ink still glossy. The final page read, "Fire cannot kill what fire has already made. Blood remembers its maker." That same month, hikers found fresh symbols carved into trees miles from the old hollow. Circles made of teeth, clumps of hair hanging from branches. One park ranger reported hearing a child singing an old mining song in the dark, though no child lived within 20 miles. The pattern was spreading in July. Drone footage from the area caught something strange, not just ruins, but new construction. Underground burrows, narrow trenches, paths cleared deep into the mountain. When zoomed in, you could see figures moving through the mist, slow, purposeful, and the drone's thermal imaging showed something even more chilling. Hundreds of heat signatures. The Carters weren't just hiding, they were rebuilding. One last detail comes from a firefighter who worked the 2022 blaze. He came forward months later, shaking as he spoke to a local radio show. He said they found tunnels running beneath the forest, entire chambers filled with bone furniture, candles made from human fat, and jars labeled with dates and names. One jar, he said, had a label that read Eli returned. When he picked it up, it moved. That firefighter later disappeared from his home, door left open, food still cooking on the stove. The Carter legend became an obsession for online communities, theorists, and true crimes. But the old folks in Lantern Ridge didn't need explanations. They already knew. When the fog thickens and the ground turns soft, the hollow opens, and what crawls out isn't after food, it's after family, because the Carters believed every person who entered their land was already part of their bloodline, by breath, by fear, by story. And when you speak their name out loud, that's the invitation. So if you ever find yourself driving through southeastern Kentucky and you see a rusted sign that says Carter's Hollow Road, turn around, don't look into the woods, don't stop to film it, don't even say their name again, because if you do, they'll know. And somewhere, deep beneath the mountain, a voice will whisper, "Welcome home." If you made it this far, you've already stepped into their story. But there's a part of the Carter curse that even I didn't tell you. The one buried in the final state file that never got released. If you want to know what the government really found under that mountain, make sure you're subscribed, turn on all notifications, and be ready, because next week, I'm taking you into the real tunnels beneath Carter's Hollow. And once you see what's down there, you'll understand why no one ever came back.